I got the wedding link like everyone else in the family. But unlike everyone else, I wasn't invited. Not even a seat in the back. Not even a wish you were here. My name is Maya. I'm the oldest of three sisters. And last fall, I sat alone in my apartment, dress pressed, heels on, makeup done, staring at my laptop screen, watching my little sister marry the man I introduced her to. Without me. Why? Because according to my own mother, I make things about me. Because apparently, my existence was a threat to a picture-perfect day. But what they didn't expect was that the wedding, the one they went out of their way to exclude me from, would implode in real time. And I'd watch it unfold like a slow-motion car crash I couldn't look away from. And the worst part? I warned them. I begged them. I tried everything to keep it from happening. You won't believe how it all went down, or what they tried to do after it was all over. Let me take you back. The moment things started to unravel was long before the wedding. Actually, it started the day Serena, my youngest sister, brought Josh home for the first time. She was glowing, giggly, twirling her hair like she was in a high school rom-com. Except Josh wasn't new to me. I'd dated him 3 years earlier, briefly. Nothing serious, nothing scandalous. But when Serena walked in that day, clinging to his arm like a lifeline, I froze. He saw me and his eyes did that subtle flick. Recognition. Panic. He smiled through it, played it cool. But I knew what I saw, and I knew it was about to get complicated. I pulled Serena aside after dinner and gently told her the truth. Not to shame her, not to ruin it, but because I believed she had a right to know. She laughed like I'd just told her a cheesy urban legend. "Josh said you guys barely went out," she said. "It's ancient history. Don't be weird." So I let it go, kind of, until I started hearing little things from friends. Things like, "Didn't he cheat on his ex?" Or, "Isn't he the guy who got fired from that startup?" And, "Wasn't there some sketchy stuff with his last engagement?" Wait, engagement? That was news to me. So I did what any protective older sister would do. I looked into it. I found out that not only had Josh been engaged before, but it ended when the woman found messages between him and multiple women, including a coworker and her best friend. I told Serena. I sent her the screenshots. She blocked me. "I'm tired of your jealousy," she said. "You can't stand it when I'm happy." That line shattered something in me. I never wanted to be the center of her world. I just wanted to be in it. Our mom, never one to miss an opportunity for drama, sided with Serena, called me toxic, competitive, and even accused me of trying to sabotage Serena's big moment because I was still single at 31. I should have been angry. But honestly, I was numb. I didn't get a wedding invite. No explanation, no apology. Just a group text that said, "Here's the link for the live stream, dress code, whatever makes you feel best." With a winky face, I cried. For about 5 minutes. Then I got up, did my makeup, and put on the dress I bought months ago. I made tea, lit a candle, and opened my laptop. The stream was choppy at first, but then it locked in. And there she was, my baby sister, my Serena, in the white lace gown we used to dream about when we were kids, standing under an arch of roses. With him. I wanted to hate her, but I couldn't. She looked beautiful, scared, and then, oddly, distracted, because Josh wasn't at the altar yet. The groomsmen shuffled awkwardly. The officiant whispered something off mic. The camera panned to the crowd. I scanned every row like a detective. That's when I saw it. The mother of the groom, red-faced and flustered, talking into her phone in the aisle. The groom's best man pacing like a trapped animal. Serena looked like she was trying not to cry. And then the audio kicked in. "He's not here," someone said. "No, he was just here." "He went to the car. That was 20 minutes ago." "Should we delay the start?" "What do you mean, he left?" My stomach dropped. They were trying to cover it up on the stream, muting the mics, switching to stock music. But I'd seen enough. Josh was missing. And not just missing. Gone. People started getting up. Someone shouted. The father of the groom yelled, "He said he was going to get his vows!" Serena turned to our mom, and I'll never forget the look on her face. Panic. Betrayal. Horror. And then the feed cut to black. But that wasn't even the worst part. The worst part came 3 hours later, when I got a text from Josh. He sent me a selfie, smiling, from an airport bar. "Bet you're loving this," he wrote. "Guess you were right after all." I didn't even know how to respond. All I could think about was Serena, humiliated, heartbroken, surrounded by hundreds of guests and 0 answers. And I wasn't even allowed to be there to hold her, but I wasn't going to just sit there. They excluded me from the wedding, but they couldn't stop me from showing up in the aftermath, and that's when everything shifted. By the time I got to Serena's house the next morning, the wedding arch was still standing in the backyard, tipped slightly, flowers wilting, like even it had given up. I expected her to scream at me, blame me, slam the door in my face. Instead, she opened it with tears in her eyes and collapsed into my arms. Not a single word, just sobs. Our mother was nowhere in sight, probably too busy controlling the narrative, spinning stories to family, playing the victim of a disastrous wedding scandal. But Serena? She wasn't ready for spin. She needed truth, and someone who wouldn't lie to her face. "I should have listened to you," she whispered through her shaking voice. He left me a note. On the bathroom counter, she handed it to me. It was scrawled on hotel stationery. No envelope. No dignity. Just a coward's exit scribbled in cheap pen ink. I can't do this. I've made too many mistakes. I need to fix my life before I destroy yours. No signature. Just a PS. Tell your sister she was right. I wanted to throw it in the fireplace. But Serena, she just sat on the couch like a ghost of herself. Still in her bridal robe, makeup smeared like battle paint, her phone buzzing nonstop from texts she wasn't answering. "I keep thinking about the way he looked at you that first night," she said suddenly, like he already knew you. I nodded slowly. Because he did. That's when the floodgates opened. Everything she'd been holding in. Every doubt, every red flag, every time he guilt-tripped her or isolated her from her friends, came pouring out. How he didn't want her talking to certain people. How he subtly criticized her goals. How he accidentally lost her engagement ring once and blamed her for being careless. "He made me feel like I was the problem," she said. "Like I was lucky he even chose me." And still somehow, she'd convinced herself he'd show up, that he'd panic, have cold feet, whatever, but still walk down the aisle. But he didn't. He ran. And the worst part? He took her self-worth with him. That's when I made a decision. If no one else was going to protect my sister, I would. No more sitting on the sidelines. No more pretending silence was maturity. Because this wasn't just a breakup. This was a setup. One they all helped engineer. Let me explain. After Serena finally crashed for a nap, I started cleaning up. That's when I found my mom's wedding planning binder in the kitchen, the one she wouldn't let anyone else touch. Out of curiosity, I flipped it open, and what I saw made my blood run cold. Tucked inside the guest list section was a printed email between my mom and Josh. It was from 4 months before the wedding. Subject: concerns about Maya. In the email, Josh wrote, "I'm worried Maya's presence will cause drama. She's been passive-aggressive and intrusive. Serena's finally moving on from Maya's shadow, and I think inviting her would only stir up more conflict." And my mom, she replied, agreed. Maya always finds a way to make things about her. This day is about Serena. Let's keep it peaceful. Peaceful? They cut me out of the most important day of our family's life because they didn't want to deal with me. Not because I was a threat, but because I was inconvenient. I took pictures of the email. I don't know why. Instinct, maybe. Like my dignity needed receipts. Later that evening, our mom came home. Hair perfectly styled. A tray of store-bought cupcakes in her hands like she thought sugar could undo everything. "Oh, good, you're here," she said to me, breezing past the couch. "We need to get ahead of this. Tell people Josh had a breakdown, that we support Serena's privacy." "Stop," I said, calm but firm. She paused, blinked. "Excuse me?" I stood up, holding the binder. "You knew. You both knew. You didn't just uninvite me, you coordinated it." Her expression cracked for a split second, then hardened. "Don't make this about you again, Maya. Serena needs support, not a pity party from her overdramatic sister." "Funny," I said. "That's not what your email said." And then I showed her. Her face went pale. "You went through my things?" she snapped. I didn't back down. "I went through the ashes of a wedding you helped destroy." Serena walked in mid-argument, eyes wide. "What email?" I looked at our mom. "Tell her." My mother hesitated, then said the most cowardly, cold-blooded sentence I've ever heard. "I did what I had to do to keep the day about you." Serena stepped back like she'd been slapped. "You mean to keep it about you," she said. And then she walked to the door, opened it, and pointed out. "Leave." It was the first time I'd ever seen our mom speechless. She left without another word. That night, Serena and I sat on the floor eating cold pizza, surrounded by half-wilted flower arrangements and unopened gifts. The silence between us wasn't awkward. It was healing. "I should have trusted you," she whispered, even when I didn't want to hear it. I nodded. "It's okay. You weren't supposed to see it back then, but now you do, and that's what matters." But it wasn't over, because a week later, I got a DM from one of Josh's exes. And what she sent me? It flipped everything upside down. Again. The message hit my inbox at 2:13 a.m. The name didn't ring a bell, but the profile pic, that was unmistakable. It was the same woman I'd seen tagged in photos with Josh years ago, the one he never mentioned. The one I later realized was his actual fiancée before Serena. Her name was Elise, and her DM was just one line. "I saw what happened. I'm sorry, but you need to know the full story." My heart started racing. I messaged her back, trying not to sound too eager. "I'm listening." Within minutes, she sent a voice note. I put in my earbuds. Her voice was steady, controlled, but you could hear the pain behind every word. "I dated Josh for 2 years. He proposed after 6 months. Love-bombed me, isolated me, broke me down. Classic narcissist playbook. I only found out about the cheating when a girl he was messaging accidentally tagged him on Instagram. That's when everything unraveled. Then she dropped the bomb. But here's what you really need to know. When I tried to expose him, to warn people, he threatened me, said he'd sue for defamation, that he had powerful connections. I backed off. But then I saw Serena's wedding photos online, and I recognized you from his Facebook. That's when I realized he went after your sister on purpose. My blood ran cold. This wasn't just a rebound or coincidence. Josh had targeted Serena to punish me, to rewrite his own humiliation by inserting himself back into our family, and then detonating the whole thing from the inside. It was revenge, on a twisted timeline. I called Serena that morning and played her the message. She didn't even cry. She just sat there, quietly listening, and whispered, "He wanted to ruin us." And he nearly did, but that was the turning point. We weren't crying anymore. We were connecting dots, building back bones, and preparing for the storm. Because while Serena was healing, slowly, deeply, the world outside was eating up her tragedy like candy. The wedding video leaked. Someone had screen recorded the live stream and shared it on Reddit. The caption? Groom ditches bride at the altar. Watch her realize he's gone. Within hours, it went viral. Millions of views, thousands of comments, people speculating, analyzing her face, debating whether it was real, saying things like, she must have known, or what did she do to make him run? It was hell. Serena called me sobbing that night. They think I'm pathetic. You're not, I said. You're a survivor, and you're not staying silent. So she wrote a post. Not a dramatic exposé, not a pity cry. Just a raw, honest account of what happened, start to finish. She ended it with, sometimes the person you think will walk you into your future leaves you standing at the altar with all their lies. It exploded, but not in the way we feared. People rallied behind her. Survivors, siblings, even therapists. They flooded her inbox with messages of support, and some with screenshots of their own run-ins with Josh. One woman sent Serena photos of Josh on a dating app. He'd listed himself as never married, looking for someone traditional. The photo? From their engagement photo shoot. Another girl, a barista from a coffee shop near his last job, sent a voicemail he accidentally left, mocking Serena's wedding decorations and calling her just another naive trophy. It was sick, but it was confirmation. And then came the final twist. A lawyer reached out. Not for Serena, but for Elise, Josh's ex. Apparently, Josh had been embezzling money from one of the startups he worked for. Elise had tipped them off anonymously after the breakup, but the case stalled for lack of evidence. Now, with Josh back in the spotlight, they reopened the file. And Elise had receipts. She looped us in. We handed over everything. Messages, screenshots, even the wedding note. Turns out Josh hadn't just abandoned Serena. He'd been using her to build credibility. On paper, Serena was perfect, kind, connected, family-oriented, and the daughter of a respected community doctor. Marrying her made him look stable, employable, reformed. It was all a cover, but it backfired. Because Serena didn't just expose him, she burned his entire house of lies to the ground. Within weeks, Josh's LinkedIn disappeared. His former employer released a statement. And Elise? She went public. Serena didn't post again after that. She didn't need to. Her silence was the final word. But the best part? She started smiling again. Small smiles at first. At the dog park. At brunch with friends. At the gym when she beat her personal best. And one day, she turned to me and said, maybe it wasn't a wedding, but it was definitely a rebirth. That hit me, because sometimes the biggest transformation doesn't come from walking down an aisle. It comes from walking away from what was never meant for you. But before we could move on fully, there was one last person we had to face. Our mother. And what happened at that confrontation? Let's just say, she finally learned what it feels like to be uninvited. My mom texted us the morning after the story went viral. We need to talk. Face to face. No apology, no ownership, just urgency. Serena hesitated, but I was already dialing her number. Fine, I said when she picked up. But we're doing this on our terms. We met at a local cafe, neutral territory. Serena wore no makeup, no soft smile, just a calm, firm expression. I was right beside her, not as backup, as witness. Mom walked in, visibly flustered. Oversized sunglasses, designer scarf, the whole performance. She sat down, took a long breath, then launched in. I've been getting messages. People are calling me a narcissist, saying I abandoned my daughter. This is spiraling out of control. Serena didn't flinch. It is out of control, but not because of me. Sweetheart, I just wanted your wedding to be perfect. No, I cut in. You wanted it to be controlled. There's a difference. Mom's lips tightened. I did what I thought was best. For who? Serena asked. You didn't protect me. You didn't protect Maya. You protected an image, and a man who never deserved either of us. For once, she didn't have a comeback. Serena leaned forward. You uninvited my sister. You ignored my doubts. And when it all blew up, you cared more about damage control than your daughter. The silence was deafening. She tried to cry, the same tears she used to weaponize at PTA meetings and family gatherings. But Serena didn't budge. I'm not mad, she said. I'm done. Our mom blinked. Serena stood. I'm rebuilding my life. Without people who only show up when there's a spotlight. You don't get to be in this new chapter unless you earn it. It was the most graceful severing I'd ever seen. No screaming, no begging, just boundaries. And we walked out of that cafe like women who finally knew our worth. That moment, it felt like closing a generational wound. Because for years, we'd both been raised to believe silence was strength, compliance was loyalty, and family meant forgiveness, no matter the damage. But not anymore. We broke that cycle. Serena sold her wedding dress 2 weeks later, donated half the proceeds to a local shelter for domestic abuse survivors. The other half? She used to enroll in culinary school, a dream she'd buried for years under the pressure of being wife material. She started a food blog. And guess what? It went viral, not because she marketed herself as a victim, but because she told the truth about healing, about regrowth, about how the kitchen became her therapy, and the knife wasn't just for cutting onions, it was for reclaiming power. Meanwhile, I started journaling everything. This whole roller coaster. The betrayal, the aftermath, the truth-telling, and I turned it into a story. This story. Because for every person who thinks being uninvited is the end, sometimes it's the beginning. You might think missing that wedding was the worst day of my life, but it wasn't. It was the day I stopped begging to be included in a family that didn't value my voice. It was the day Serena stopped dressing up for someone who was never going to show up. It was the day we both realized, you don't need an altar to rise. You just need a truth you're brave enough to stand on. So if you've ever felt discarded, silenced, or sidelined by your own family, ask yourself, what would happen if you stopped trying to prove your worth to people who only see you as a threat? Would your life fall apart, or would it finally begin? Because here's the real mic drop. Sometimes, not being invited to the party is how you end up hosting your own. And trust me, ours has way better music, real friends, and no one crying in the bathroom over a man who couldn't even show up. So let me ask you, have you ever been excluded from a family event, only to realize later it was a blessing in disguise? Drop your story in the comments. Your voice deserves to be heard. If this story moved you or gave you clarity, hit the like button so more people going through the same thing can find it. And share this with someone who's still healing from family betrayal. They might just need this more than you think. Subscribe if you want more real, powerful stories that remind you your past doesn't define you. Your choices do. Because next time they say, just watch from the sidelines, you'll smile and say, that's okay. I'll be building something better.